Hello and welcome. Today in the Zoom room, I've got Kate Mcdowell with us, who's agreed to come along and tell us a little bit about what she does and how she does it. So, hi, Kate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Mark. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome, more than welcome. So, tell us a little bit about what you do and how you do it.
How much time do we have? Ultimately, I work with clients with MS, and that started from my own journey of being diagnosed and going through quite the journey from I was a very science-minded kid, so I thought that I only had limited options. I thought medicine was all that could help me. And if you had said to me 20 years ago when I was diagnosed that I'd be using hypnosis and nutrition and all of these woo-woo things, or so I called them at the time, there's no way I would have been open to it. So my own journey was a big part of why I do what I do now because I've seen the different layers that people can go through after being diagnosed with a critical illness, and there's a lot of fear, and there's a process to get to the place where you're open and looking for other opportunities to change. And so, I mean, today I've helped hundreds of people with MS get to a place where symptoms aren't controlling their life in the same way anymore. And also for myself, I've been 9 years symptom free. So that's basically in a nutshell my process personally, and then how I help clients.
That's really, really interesting. So, what exactly is MS for the people that don't know?
MS is an autoimmune condition, and essentially your body is attacking itself. It's autoimmune, or that's what we're told, is that your body is attacking itself. I don't 100% agree with that analogy anymore, but at the same time, there's these linings around our nerve cells, essentially, that's called the myelin sheath. And when the body starts to attack that or break that down, think about the plastic coating on electrical wires. If that gets worn off and the wires are exposed, that's when they can get damaged. That's
Ah.
essentially what's happening in your brain and in your spinal cord, where this lining, this coating around your nerve cells is damaged. And so the nerves are exposed. So we end up with lesions or plaques, essentially, that can lead to symptoms in different ways. There can be pain, mobility problems, cognitive. That was my biggest frustration, was the cognitive stuff. But there's a lot of different things that go on for a person living with MS, and it can be a challenging thing to deal with, but there's so much more possible than we've been led to believe.
Good. It's quite interesting because I've met a lot of people with MS over the years, and they're going through our free healthcare system here in the UK, but they don't seem to find anything that really helps, maybe a bit of pain relief. What is it that you're doing differently to traditional medicine?
Currently, I do take a look at things from a nutrition perspective because if you think about the foods that we're eating, it's going to have an impact on our body. We eat 2 to 3 times a day, sometimes
Mhm.
more. And it's like imagining there's a plant behind me if you're watching right now. If you're not, imagine giving a little bit of poison to your plant every single day. Just a little bit, not a lot,
Mhm.
just a couple drops, but eventually it's going to start to impact the plant. And the same can be said about our food system and about the foods that are common in culture now, overly processed foods. There's inflammatory seed oils. Like basically, if the foods are causing inflammation in the body, that can lead to problems. And there's a lot of inflammatory triggers that create MS and autoimmune conditions as well. And so I do look at things from the food perspective. How can we remove the little bit of poison that's been given to the plant every day? How can we make it so your body's getting the tools to be able to start working towards getting healthier again? So that's one element of what I do, but I also take a look at the unconscious mind side of things
Ah,
from hypnosis, from NLP, because if we consider that our unconscious mind controls 90 to 95% of what we do in a day, in a daily basis, you don't have to tell your heart to beat every time it beats. You don't have to tell your lungs to take a breath every time you need air. Can you imagine? That would be a lot of stress and overwhelm and extra energy that would be needed to do that. Well, the Center for Health and Well-being is also controlled by our unconscious mind. So if we can kind of take a look and figure out where are the loops and patterns that have been running in the background that are keeping you in a place of feeling stuck and not moving forward with your health, and just make some little tweaks there, some fine-tune adjustments to get you to the place where you want to go, it's pretty cool what can happen for a person.
It is. It is. It's so underlooked at. I know
Hmm.
with the NHS that we've got here in the UK, they'll look at one or the other, but there's such a lack of interest in nutrition or lifestyle with
Yeah.
just our basic doctors, and it's just something that drives me mad. That it's just, I don't know. You either do mental health or you do physical health, and to see that you're doing both together, that sounds really, really good. So, do you think your clients get better results working this way than they do with medications?
Yes, in a
Good.
sense, like, so, okay, a little bit about my journey. So I did go the medical route for 7 years.
Wow.
I took the medication every single day, and I did not get better the entire time I was doing that. I injected myself every day for 6 years, and then they came up with a pill version of the MS medication. And so I was happy when I didn't have to do needles anymore. But at the same time, I just kept getting sicker and sicker. And I'd go to my doctor and say, I'm not getting better. What's going on? And he'd say, oh, okay, well, maybe we just need to increase the strength of your medication, or maybe we just need to increase your dosing, or maybe you need another one on top of that. So we just layered medication on top of medication, but I just kept getting sicker. And so when I got to the point where I realized I had to look for something different, I actually had a turning point where, from a hypnosis perspective, we talk about when a client gets to threshold, and that's when change happens. And so for me, I meds weren't working for me. So
Hmm.
I thought I'll raise money for the MS Society, which is the society that's working to find a cure for these illnesses. And I remember going to my best friend, and a good friend tells you what you want to hear. Your best friend tells you what you need to hear.
Hmm.
I asked her, will you sponsor me for this MS bike ride? I raised thousands of dollars for the MS Society over the years because I thought if aren't going to work for me, I need to find something else. Okay, I'll just raise money for the society. And
Hmm.
when I asked her if she'd sponsor me, she said, I love you. I will absolutely sponsor you, but you know they're never going to come up with a cure, right? That was like a knife in the heart. I was hurt. I was angry. I was offended. I was upset. But when I went home and thought about it, I realized she was exactly right. She was telling me exactly what I needed to hear. And so I'd been waiting for something outside of me for all of these years, which I know a lot of people are still in the place where they're hoping to find something outside of them that can fix them. But what I realized in that moment was that it needed to come from me. If change was going to happen, I needed to be a part of it. And so that's when my like narrow focus of medicine as the only option expanded, and things like nutrition, things like hypnosis, some spirituality side of things, like different opportunities appeared and showed up. And it can be a time or a journey to go through that process of realizing like, okay, maybe I need to try something else. What I've been told, the beliefs that I've had from a young age aren't working. So I can either stay here and continue to complain and continue to be angry and blame everything outside of me for why I am where I am, or I can look for some other options and embrace that I need to be a part of this. So that was like, I don't remember you asked me. Oh, do I think what I do helps people on a different level? I think my clients come to me and they get a lot more personal power and just an understanding of, wow, I can do things that
Hmm.
actually help create change.
Yes.
I just got off the client or the phone like 10 minutes ago with a client who from the first to second session, she started to feel positive improvement. And for someone who's dealing with a health problem where they feel like there's no hope, they feel like there's no cure, there's nothing you can do, your life is just going to continue to get worse and you need to accept it, to feel things slightly move in the right direction can be huge.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, for me, when I started changing my diet after I had that turning point moment, within 30 days, I started to feel things move in the right direction.
Good.
I
Good.
spent 7 years taking medication and never got better. And 30 days of doing something different and change was starting to happen. That's huge. That can be huge for people because it's like, holy crap, there is something I can do, right?
And that's really fast that people are seeing that benefit within
Mhm.
30 days. That is
Yeah, I
amazing.
mean, not always. Like, I'm not saying in 30 days my like everything changed, turned around, but to
Mm.
feel things moving in the direction you want them to is like, oh. okay,
Mm,
I'm on to something. And then what else can I do? Right?
definitely. And I think when people just see that little bit of a benefit, even if it's just after the first session or two, seeing that
Hmm.
benefit, they get a little bit more belief and then they start really investing in the process.
Yep.
And it's just amazing to see that sort of work happening. So, were you trained in hypnosis and nutrition before your MS started, or was that part of the process as well?
Nope. I went back to school for nutrition after my friend said to me that they're never going to come up with a cure. I did my own experimenting first and got to the point like I haven't taken, this is okay. Disclaimer, I'm not ever recommending someone comes off their medication, and anything I share doesn't go against medical advice. It's education. I'm sharing my story.
Yes.
And so after I came off, I made changes to my diet in 2011 or 2012. And then 2016, I came off my medication. And after that, I went back to school for nutrition because I was like, holy cow, this is huge. Like the
Yeah.
changes have been massive. And I thought, okay, maybe there's an opportunity for me to help other people. So nutrition was my first journey, and I did college for that. And then I was only recently trained in hypnosis. I took NLP in November of last year, and I took
Wow.
hypnosis January of this year. And yeah, it's been amazing the changes that can happen for people.
It is. It is. I was kind of similar when I started doing my NLP training officially. It was just amazing to see things happening as we were training in the room with both myself and other people. And it's so
Hmm.
powerful. And I keep saying to people, I just wish we sort of taught this in schools and
Right.
universities.
Yeah.
And when we twin that with nutrition, it's amazing that the changes get an awful lot bigger.
Hmm.
So you mentioned that people get to the point of transcendence. What does that look like for clients?
What do you mean by that?
When a client sort of gets to the point where they're ready to make the changes, what have they experienced? Is it just that they've got to the point where they just say, I've had enough, or they look for something different?
Most of the clients that come to me, yes, essentially they've had enough. They feel like they're not being heard
Hmm.
from their doctors, from medicine. They just feel like they're tired of trying the same thing over and over again or trying other things on their own as well now. When I made changes to my diet, it was 2011. So we didn't have TikTok. We didn't have all of the social presence that's available now. But many people find that they get conflicting information or they feel like they're not getting anywhere. And when you start working with a practitioner or a guide who's able to kind of point you in the direction of where to start and where to go next, it can be very useful because something like nutrition specifically, like hypnosis and NLP, change can happen very rapidly.
Hmm.
But nutrition, you may have to change your diet for like 6 months
Yes.
before you know if it's actually going to make a difference for you. And so sometimes people get to the point they're like, I don't have time for that, or I don't have the patience to just trust that this is helping me. So working with a coach, typically, yeah, they come to me and they're like, you've done this.
Hmm.
I know you've done this. You've worked with many other people. So that it's the faith and changing beliefs can be challenging, but can be so empowering. And so, yeah, they're at the point where they're just like, I need to find something else.
Yeah, I think it's finding people when they get to that point.
Hmm.
One of the challenges we see is that people have got very deep-rooted beliefs around
Hmm.
food. How do you break those beliefs and help people to move forward?
Um, I mean, if you think food is very much connected to so many of the things in life, right? There's community, there's holiday, there's family related stuff, there's religious related stuff that's
Mm,
connected to food. And if you think about babies when they're growing up, like what's the first thing we do when a child is upset? We feed them.
yeah.
So from a very young age, we're conditioned to see food as comfort, as belonging, as support, as so many different things. But when you can start to look at food from the perspective of this is either helping me get healthy or it's not.
Hmm.
And so realizing that, okay, this is something that I can change. It's tangible. I
Hmm.
can see it in front of me. I can look at my plate and know that I'm choosing foods that are moving me towards better health
Hmm.
or not. And so some people aren't open to that. And I totally
Yeah.
get that. But that's where NLP and hypnosis can be helpful as well because people start to move in one direction and feel better. And it's like, what other changes can I make? So sometimes the hypnosis, the mindset related stuff is the first step. And then they're like, okay, so now can we talk about diet or nutrition afterwards?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I'm not the food police with anyone. I don't want to
No.
be.
It is interesting because I find culturally here in the Northeast, a lot of people have very restricted diets. My parents were the type that had the same foods on the same days
Mhm.
every week, and trying to get them to change the diet was really difficult. But it's good that you're managing to do that. But I suppose again, if they're at the right point, it
Hmm.
works really nicely. And from my experience, I don't know if you get the same once people start to feel a bit better, but they try different ranges of foods, they get a little bit more adventurous. And then they kind of get to the point they say, why was I eating that rubbish for so long when there's all these choices out there?
Hmm.
You find a
Yeah.
similar sort of thing? Good.
Yes, yeah. And I hear clients too where we can get like beat ourselves up for it a little bit
Mm.
afterwards too, because it's like, why did I eat crap for so long? If I had just eaten better 10 years ago, I wouldn't have gone through the last 10 years of suffering that I
Mm.
went through with MS and whatever. But we only know as much as we know in the time. The resources that we have at the time, like it's okay if it's something that you've been doing, because from now forward, you're choosing something different,
Mm.
right? So, yeah, I mean, food, again, like I'm not looking to limit the heck out of people, but it's just like, what are the foods that are actively moving you
Mm.
towards a place of health, and what are the foods that are moving you in the direction you don't want to go? And what can we change?
Excellent. Excellent. And MS must be really tough on people on a mental health basis.
Yes, it can be because there's a lot of challenges that happen, and there's a lot of it's considered an invisible illness because people will look at you and say like, "But you don't look sick," and you're
Mhm.
like, you have no idea what
Yeah.
I'm going through all of the time, right? But again, that's a place where we can choose to stay there. I've lived both sides of this because it's been
Mhm.
20 years since my diagnosis, and I lived in the like MS warrior, and I'm gonna fight the good fight, and I'm gonna let people know what it's how crappy it is to live with this condition,
Mhm.
and really like share that message more. And then I realized this isn't really serving me. I'd rather put my time, effort, and energy into getting healthy once I started to realize that that was possible. But it can be very challenging. One of the biggest frustrations that I dealt with was I had like pretty extreme cognitive issues. And so I like to talk. I wouldn't be doing podcasts. I wouldn't be doing all of the public
Mm.
appearances that I do now when I was dealing with the cognitive stuff because my thoughts were great. They worked fine in my
Yeah.
brain and they came out of my mouth a jumbled mess.
Mhm.
And so you start to lose confidence in yourself. I was embarrassed when I'd have a conversation with someone and I felt like a bumbling, like couldn't keep up with things. And so, yeah, it starts to impact you in many different ways when you start to
Mm.
not know the person or the body that you're living in anymore. So that can be a challenging thing as well. But I mean, giving people the empowerment of realizing that there are things they can do from a mindset side of things
Mhm.
is very powerful and useful. So, yeah.
And I'm sure as well when they kind of learn about you and realize that there's options, there isn't just the medication route.
Hmm.
We constantly see people just get a little bit surprised when there's something different or somebody else has, been referred to us and then there's something else that works other than medication. And it's
Yep.
some people can be very, very blinkered and that there's only the medical route to go down.
Hmm. That was me 20 years ago. Like I said, I was the like tunnel vision, the narrow
Yeah.
focus of like people would say, "Oh, you could try changing your food." And I'd be like, "Nope," because it was not in my field of view. Nutrition was on the outside, hypnosis was on the outside. I was
Mm.
like, no, you're wrong. Medicine is all I can do. But sometimes you do have to get to the point where you're like, so I've been doing this. Like, I blame myself at times,
Mm.
which I've heard that as well, because it's like, maybe I'm not being a good enough patient. And so I thought being a better patient would get me where I wanted to go, but I did everything right
Mm.
and still wasn't getting better. And
Mm.
so, yeah, there can be a challenge there, but sometimes you have to get to that point, unfortunately, where you're
Mm.
like, I've been doing this over and over and over again, and I'm still getting sicker. There's got to be other options.
Yeah, that's it. It's a good thing to do. So, if you could go back 10 years to a younger version of you and would say, what is the best thing you could do for your mental health? What would that be?
That's a really good question. what is the best thing you can do for your mental health? Surround yourself with people that are the kind of the goals that you want to work towards.
Hmm.
My biggest change when I went from taking the medication to not taking it anymore is I had to get out of a toxic relationship that I was in. We were both good people. We were not right for each other.
Hmm.
And so we caused problems inadvertently or unintentionally for each other, which was not good mental health wise. I also got out of a toxic workplace.
Right.
I was a kid who grew up very young, which is something that I see with a lot of people with MS, women especially with MS. The kids that had to take on more responsibility than many from a young age. My dad left when I was 4, and so I saw it as my my mom's happiness was my responsibility
Mm.
in my mind. And so I was always focused on everyone else. What does everyone else
Ah.
need? And many of the women who come to me, it's a similar story. There's a lot of the people pleaser, like the martyr kind of, I take care of everyone else, and then my own stuff, I don't deal with that. Oh no, no, there's things coming up for me. I just put those, shove those in a backpack
Hmm.
and just keep layering things into this backpack until it gets so heavy
Hmm.
that you just can't carry it anymore. And so like make sure to take some time and focus on what do you need in terms of your health, in terms of your well-being,
Mm.
and really assess situations where maybe you aren't giving like your body, your mind what it needs to move forward towards thriving in health. I think that would have been a really big shift for me in terms of mental health that I wish I would
Mm.
have seen sooner. But thankfully I did eventually, and it is part of the difference, like nutrition, mindset, hypnosis, but really learning that putting yourself first isn't selfish. It's actually very valuable. It's a very valuable tool to do.
It's really important,
Hmm.
both as a therapist and as a parent and supporting a family. It's the same as that analogy on the aeroplane. If that plane starts to go down, you've got to put your own mask on first.
Hmm.
And it's
Absolutely.
something I constantly see with clients as they're trying to help everybody else and they're not looking after
Hmm.
themselves. And it's just getting that little mind shift,
Yeah,
just to get them to
exactly.
realize that's the case. So, how does it feel to be a therapist and to do this sort of work?
I love it. Like seeing clients have the kind of eye-opening moment of like, "Oh my goodness, this is working." And
Hmm.
it's them doing it. Like all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. I'm not actually doing anything
Hmm.
to my clients. I'm just like shining the flashlight in the direction
Mm.
to focus on. And the shift that happens is cool. I mean, I went through a phase in my journey too where I was like, I don't want to touch MS. I don't want to work on this because I know the things we think about the most are the things that our unconscious mind is going to show us evidence of. And so I thought for a while, I was like, I don't want to focus on MS because I don't want to invite it back into my life. But I've changed the perspective and the way I look at it and focus on it now. But just being able to help people realize just because there's no cure doesn't mean you can't get healthy.
Yeah.
And when someone tells you there's nothing you can do, it's not true. There is so much more you can do for yourself. And yeah, so I love helping people like have that aha moment of like, oh my God, I can do it. This is amazing.
It is. It's lovely being a therapist. A lot of people say to me, it must be awful sitting and listening to people's problems all day. And I say exactly the opposite because it's so rewarding. And then to see how people do better in life and use those tools to go
Hmm.
on and change their life, it is just so rewarding. It's really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a therapist. I'm a consulting hypnotist. We can't call it that in
All
Ontario, but
right. Yes, there's very different rules in different countries.
mhm.
Yeah, you've
Yeah.
got to be very careful. And the words that you use as well. You can't use the words like heal or cure, and
Yeah. Diagnose, treat, cure. I don't do any of those
you
as a
can't do any of
nutritionist
that.
or as a hypnotist.
Okay, okay. So for somebody with MS and they were looking to maybe make a change and move away from the typical medical side, what would you say the first steps are?
A conversation is the best place to get started. Can help them understand a little bit more about, well, I want to understand what's going on with them, and then give them some tools and resources so they can start to experience what could be possible for
Mm.
you. What are the opportunities, and what if things changed, right? And what would that look like for you?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
That's good. And if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, how's the best way for people to find you, Kate?
Some people may not like this. TikTok is my main platform. I share a lot of content there, and it's Kate.McDowell is my TikTok link. I'm like all over social media, though. You can find me on YouTube. My website is alignednaturalhealth.com, and any of those places you can book a free call with me or download my free hypnosis for MS to get a feel for what it's like and what's possible.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. That has been a really interesting talk there, Kate. Thank you so much for that. And I hope this gives some people with MS some hope. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having
And
me.
you're welcome. You're welcome. And we'll be doing some more of these shows very shortly. So please do join us. Thank you.